I fucking love
Thanks
you,
to the fire. Sun rays like a satellite. Energies bring me back to life. Catch me chilling with the halo. Universal flow, I belong here. Keep that focus on that starlight. God of my universe is part of my mission, righteous the all might. Raw splitting the sea into that clear sight. Go far intuition, lifting up that soul right. High low, high low, high low, high low. Elevate my love, generate my touch. Everything I see coming to me, I'm knowing. Fruits that I bear from the sowing. I just put in work to the morning, to the three bird that we heard. Stepping through the light, that's a rebirth. Giving thanks to life and the ether. I can never fall when I'm free bird. Free bird.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, you can hear me good?
I can hear
Oh,
you
that's
good.
the good stuff. I see you in your black. I see the vibe you pulling. I
Yes,
see
if
it.
we're gonna have this conversation, I gotta be in
I
the
see it.
vibration.
You
I
said
gotta
you
be
have
in
to
the
go ahead and set
energy.
it up. Had to set it up. Had to set it up.
Yes.
Greetings, everybody. Hey, as you guys know, I do not own the rights to this music, but my son just commented in the comment box. Ken, let me go ahead and pull him up so you guys can see who he is. Yes, Ken. There he is. Um, Skybox Can you all? This is his lovely music in the background that he writes, produces, mixes, and masters
Hi.
himself. You guys, and he just, I have some pretty dope people in my life, so I'm very blessed. But he's the wonderful artist that created this music that you guys hear every week, and that actually I listen to during the week too. It pumps me up and it keeps me in a certain headspace. So shout out to Ken. But I'm gonna shift gears as we're getting ready to dive into some stuff. But in the meantime, while we're still pumping up and you guys are coming in, um, I'm going to be setting myself up. Anyhow, the year's coming to a close, and I want to first say thank you all for the views, the love, the support, because today actually, while talking to Rain, oh, you're welcome, Ken, of course, always. Charge up to the max and all love, you know how we do. Um, in the midst of the year closing, I want to say thank you all for the views. Okay, we have been doing really well with views. No, we are not like content creator mega views yet, but we are on our way, and every view counts. Every heart, every comment, every like, every share counts. And you guys have been showing up, and we definitely see the growth through that, through the views, with what we're doing. So I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you all because without you all, we can't keep this going. And you guys actually
You're
motivated us
breaking
to
up a
start
bit. You're
this.
breaking up a bit.
Uh-oh. Okay. Hold up. Let me make sure I don't have any other things running in the background. I want to remove Instagram and give her her own tab off the screen. So, we wouldn't be able to do this if you guys didn't, help us out. Be great. We're great because you guys help us to be great. And so we are extremely grateful. We want to say that we are extremely grateful. And we're going to grow and continue to push out great content, thought-provoking content. And Rain pulled my coattail this week and was like, yo, we started this thing very spicy and very thought-provoking. We need to keep it very spicy and very thought-provoking. And I couldn't agree more. Um, one second. Okay, there we go. I want to make sure you guys are hearing me clear. M- If I look strange because I'm reading something, StreamYard has some new stuff that they're rolling out, and it's popping up as I'm talking, so I was thrown off a little bit, and so I do apologize. But as I was saying, we can't do this without you all, and so I'm very grateful. Rain and I are very grateful that you guys help us to keep this going. And so, like I said, Rain had pulled my coattail and was like, "Yo, we started this thing very spicy. We need to keep it very spicy, and I couldn't agree more. Definitely could not agree more with her. And so in lieu of that, something that's been on my mind actually, normally Rain comes up with the topics and she did come up with one, but I felt like that particular topic we kind of covered, and maybe in the middle of the year we'll bring it back and revamp it with some spinners on it and a whole lot of pepper and sweetness to it. But I felt like it was so fresh that we didn't have to go back there just yet. And so, um, something that I felt was close in proximity to topic, but also something I felt that needed to be discussed for the year coming up was this energy of Kabbalah, knowing what it is, understanding what it is. Rain, am I breaking up? Are you breaking up? What's going on? Help me to understand.
Nobody's breaking up.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure because it was like sticking on your side, so I didn't know if it was me glitching or what. Let me take a sip of water, y'all, because my voice is still recovering. Okay, so um, in lieu of the topic and the energy of Lilith vibes and mystical energy, one, this is a season. December is a season for that, but also projecting what's I believe is coming for next year. I felt like this topic was very important to talk about. It's definitely something that Rain and I both are into, very heavy in different forms, in different ways. But even just this past weekend, you all, a little situation, fun story. Um, I was supposed to be a part of a banquet. Long story short, the banquet got changed around to an all nations or universal, all nations table or ancestors table kind of vibe going on. And so, um, the reason the person made that decision was because they were afraid of Kabbalah, with the idea that Kabbalah was predominantly, uh, quote unquote, demonic practice or low vibrating energy. And then if they're used to ancestral vibes and Orisha vibes, they didn't want to go down the Kabbalistic route. And so, in educating them and teaching them a little bit more about what it is, I felt like it was important to like share these things with more people that may feel that way, and also maybe learning more. And so, right now, you can take the floor for a minute. I know you have some thoughts because you know I can go, and I want to make sure you get some too.
Well, I just want to say a pleasant good night. I hope everyone had a great week. And yet again, we are here and we're building up consistency because that is the theme that I personally would like to take into 2025 is being consistent. It's so easy to get distracted by life and things that are encompassing our lives that we tend to forget that we have our passions. For me, being on the podcast this year was very unexpected and very much out of my comfort zone. But I feel like the message for this year and for next year is to don't be afraid of stepping out of the box. Don't be afraid or limit oneself to what we think we should do or how we're supposed to be. Just go with the energy of the flow. So that's like what I would like to say is hi. Now, as to the topic of Kabbalah, 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 for me, without saying too much, because I definitely believe that there has to be a form of sacredness that remains around the ideologies that is encompassed within Kabbalah. Um, I would say that the understanding of self is key. And that's what the journey into understanding Kabbalah is the understanding of, as I said to someone earlier, the concept that is existing within you and you are existing within the universe, and how interchangeable that relationship is. So tonight we're going to have this discussion, but I also want to have this discussion with a level of reverence and understanding that we're not going to get into everything because everyone doesn't need to know everything. But what we can have a conversation
Everything.
about is how these principles are the basic fundamentals of the very mundane things that we do in our everyday life. Do not get demystified or mystified by the mysticism attached to it, because it's literally just a blueprint on how to best live and operate your life. So once you take the fear and the negative connotations away from it and understand that people have been researching this and developing this for ages and millenniums for us to understand now. And I believe because we are in the age of enlightenment, we're synonymously in the age of Kabbalah. So that's why you see certain energies, entities, topics, conversations are more predominant and free now because we're in what it governs, which is enlightenment.
Ashe, so true. And I couldn't agree more. As my sister said, we won't be getting into everything because within the practice there are levels of secrecy. But what I will share, what we will build upon is information that you very well can find for yourself, but making it, it's different when you read something and then you have someone that is in it kind of break it down or give you some context or a little bit more understanding to it. And so the goal today, is to give one a general understanding of what Kabbalah is, because there's different perspectives, and I want to cover a few different. I don't, in my teaching, I don't like to just give one. I like to try to give a range, and so within that range, I'm speaking from four different practices of Kabbalah, but very simple, general statements. Okay, and then addition to that, um, sharing one. I don't know if Rain would like to, but I definitely would share my personal experience of one, how did I get into the practice of Kabbalah, and how does it apply in my life? Now, not going into the depths of the secrecy and rites or passages that are attached to it, but general things of how it applies to my life. But as Rain said, it's in the simple, mundane things that we do and how we live, how we see the world, how we operate, how we engage, one with self, two with spirit, and three with others. You know is important. And so I'm going to read just now. I'm going to pull up, what first I'll give you guys my own off the brain definition of Kabbalah. And then I'll read formal definitions of Kabbalah from four different schools of thought. One being Judaism, two Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and Hermeticism. Okay? So, number one, I believe Kabbalah is the practice of being able to transform one's reality through the understanding of being connected to the source and certain experiences, certain vibrations, and the elements in certain realms affect our lives. And if we understand how they affect our lives and they're connected to us, we can grow and being stronger in self. And in being stronger in self, we're also growing stronger in the source, God, Buddha, Allah, Grand Tetragrammaton, whatever that Bondier, whatever you call that higher source is. And through these different um, attributes that apply through different experiences, scenarios, and states of consciousness, we grow, we develop, we understand better. And so I want Rain to also share what her off the brain definition of Kabbalah is before I read the formal definitions of it. Uh, if you will, Rain, I'm gonna pull it up now.
Kabbalah is the understanding of universal principles. It's the overarching study into the grand essence of consciousness. And when you dive deeper into Kabbalah, you understand that when you understand universal principles, you understand self principles. As I said before, Kabbalah is the mundane, but it's the extraordinary all at once. It's the philosophical, scientifical, spiritual combination of how all aspects of life boil down to something simple, understanding energy. And when we understand Kabbalah, when we understand our placement within the tree of life, within the self, within the oneness, it gives us a deeper understanding of what Kabbalah is. We have so many ancient principles of study all going about this desire to understand the one, the all, you know. And
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
about how Kabbalah, ties into other esoteric principles that goes into understanding the very basic principle, the all is mind and the universe is mental. You know, everything that we are connected to is just a reflection of that one source energy. And I think that's what Kabbalah attempts to explain. It's the blueprint, it's the tool, it's the school of thoughts that, people have spent time and millennium trying to break down and understand.
Yep,
We're
I love that. I love that. So I'm gonna read here, and just to let you guys know, we've always talked about living in the age of Aquarius and appreciating modern day technology. And I've been growing used to Miss AI versus condemning her so much. And so, according to Chat GPT, okay, simple question. At the core, what is Kabbalah? And this is what it's saying, and I love this definition. It says Kabbalah is a mystical system that seeks to understand the nature of God, the universe, and the human soul. It is both a spiritual philosophy and a practical discipline aimed at aligning with divine wisdom and uncovering the mysteries of creation. While originating in Jewish mysticism, Kabbalah has influenced and have been adapted by various esoteric traditions. Now, beautiful definition. Oh, great. We're looking good on Instagram too, by the way. Thank you guys on Instagram for checking us out and spending time with us. Now, according to that definition, let me pull my camera back up. I agree with everything about that, but I struggle with the idea of Kabbalah um, originating within Jewish teaching, Jewish philosophy. That's the public known idea of Kabbalah that it originates in Jewish teachings. However, a lot of, yes, let me say this, let me be more specific. A lot of those writings and study, the formal writings and research that were done was done by Jewish practitioners. But the mysticism goes even further back beyond that. Go ahead, Randy, you had your finger up.
sciences, all these school of thoughts, it's not new. It's not anything that's unique. So we have
Mm-mm.
people who go into like Egyptology and their ancient studies and principles. It's the universal principle, whether it's Hermetic principles, they're all at the core still the same
Yes.
basic message. So
Yes.
Kabbalah itself is the specific Jewish school of thought, just like we have all this other stuff that have the same core core principles, but it's just culturally impacted and shaped. That's why they,
Mhm.
probably reference the Jewish
Yes, the Jewish application, because the
ancestry.
yes, Judaism gave a lot of structure to how we research Kabbalah today, all over the world, how people research and study Kabbalah, even the words and invocations that we use, even for Gnosticism, it still stems from the Jewish structuring of the writings and teachings of mysticism. Now, as Rain said, it's always has been here. Um, Even for me, who goes by the name Ra as my spiritual name, that's for a reason and a purpose. And as Rain said, and I'm so glad she said that, is that it goes all the way back to Egypt and even before that time, we're dealing with the Sumerians and all of that. But a lot of the formal writings and structure was given through Judaism. However, the beautiful thing about ChatGPT is she helped me with my forming of my research because again, a lot of these things we talk about in our private circles, but I have never necessarily put it into a formal structure, which she helped me to do. And so I'm actually going to cover a few of the Kabbalistic practices known around the world outside of just Judaism. Okay, and you guys heard me name a few already: Judaism, Gnosticism. And so I'm going to read it here. You have uh, Jewish mysticism, known as traditional Kabbalah. Okay, and it originates in the medieval Spain and France. Okay, and they resource a lot of the information from the Zohar text. Okay, and then you also have Christian mysticism called Hermetic Kabbalah. And then you have Islamic mysticism known as Sufi Kabbalah or Sufism. And then you have also Gnostic Kabbalah, which is Christianity and Jewish Kabbalah connected. Uh, that goes a little bit deeper in the connectivity between Jewish law and Christian application. Okay. And then you have the Caribbean Kabbalistic practices that can manifest through the practices of Obia or Haitian Voodoo or Shampuel, also some elements of Santeria. And then you have Kemetic Kabbalah, and there are New Age movement groups in the Western world. Like in the US, there's a lot of New Age movement groups that were made. And then also for Hinduism, it says Hindu and yogic synchronism. Some mystic draws parallels between Sephoric and the Sifrit and the chakras or other subtle body systems in the Hinduism. And so this is showing right there that when we talk about the chakras, when we talk about um, dealing with the angels, when we talk about the 72, as we say, the 72 high, the 72 low, you're getting into teachings of Kabbalah. And so it's not saying that Kabbalah was restricted to just one region of the world, but in fact, it was spread throughout the entire world. So, as Rain said earlier, those of us that have a desire to know more and understand the mysteries of the universe, understanding the mysteries of nature, understanding the mysteries of God and how God works and its unique form. That is a study of Kabbalah. And so when we get into now um, the application or engaging in Kabbalah, um, go ahead, Ray.
I wanted to say that Kabbalah is truly a way of life because
Hmm.
it's not only the study of these thoughts and these school of thoughts, it's the application of how you're going to implement these school of thoughts every day. So if I know the universe is mental, like I said earlier, right? How do I apply that into my everyday life? That's when you have things like manifestation techniques, and all these things are Kabbalistical practices that we're not even aware can find its trace and its roots back to Kabbalah. I was having a conversation earlier and I asked a question because you know me, when I don't know something, I'm asked. And I said, so would Solomonic magic be considered Kabbalistical? And I received the answer that, in essence, somewhat, because a lot of the rituals and principles of Kabbalah are present within Solomonic magic,
Solomonic magic. Yes.
but it's its own category within itself. So I say that to say that Kabbalah is the blueprint for all other basic spiritual rituals, practices, and school of thoughts once you start to deal with the concept of magic, right? So, as you said, it has Sufism, it has
Well,
Gnosticism,
go
it
ahead,
has
go
all
further.
these
'Cause
different.
I was just starting. I was just about to say getting into the. I was just as you entered in. I was saying getting into the workings of Kabbalah. So we got to take our time because we that was a fast track. We got to take our time and break that down a little bit more. So
Go ahead.
um when you talk about number one, the understanding, we can build it like this. Meditation, dealing with self, even before you can get into magic, applying magic, working magic, any of that. I'm a firm believer that you need to get into self. Now, in the more practical way, what does that look like? And you can, I say, kill more birds with one stone. Is getting in the elements, meditating in the elements, grounding yourself in the elements, whether that's in the woods, whether that's by the water, whether that's, in that space, getting in the elements and getting in tune with that vibration without distraction. Because you can go, yes, with a group of people, but it's something when it's you and God, you and the energy, you and the vibration, and you start to interact and engage in that energy. You gain from that. And then you start to see, okay, how is this going to how can I build on this when I ground myself in the earth, when I get planted in the earth? Let me understand these things about the earth. Let me understand how this is formed, how this is connected to me. You understand? When we even there was a philosopher, I can't think of the writer name, but he said if you really want to understand the most simple ways of the universe, study nature. See how the cycles of nature, seasons change, seeing how the elements shift, seeing how the very animals in nature engage because they have natural senses and it connects to us. You understand? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And
I'm hearing
so,
you flowing.
yeah. And so building and getting into that inner self, when you ground yourself in the earth, is something it's hard to explain the feeling that comes over, but I can tell you what happens, at least for me. Go ahead.
So for me, the beauty of Kabbalah is the understanding that these things are interconnected. So now, when you do the practice of meditation or you do your practice of grounding, Kabbalah says, let's take it a step further and understand that, hey, there's magnetic fields under the earth. And because there's magnetic fields under earth, you're absorbing this energy when you sit on the earth. So it takes the spiritual aspects and components, ties it in with the scientific aspects and components, and it teaches you to go outside of self to get back in self.
Self.
Because at the end of the day, you could have all the understanding, because I always say, like, for me, I don't consider myself a Kabbalah practitioner because I do not live this lifestyle daily. To be a Kabbalist, you have to dedicate yourself to an immense amount of stuff. To understand metaphysics, you have to understand,
Geometry.
spirituality, you have to understand geometry, you have to understand so many variables and aspects of the universal understanding. Now, do I believe that I've found a niche where certain Kabbalistical rituals do occur? Yes. But to say that I am a true Kabbalah practitioner, no. Because I was having the conversation that even the basic requirements, I'm like, a 7-day water fast is like Kabbalah 101, to start unlocking certain mental capacities within the brain and all this kind of stuff. Most of us aren't willing to do so. unless we have to say Gomon or something like that, because Kabbalah requires a level of discipline and dedication. I was with the tree of life or the awakening of the Kundalini, which is all
Mhm.
basically Kabbalistical teachings, whether you want to
Mhm.
give it
Yoga teaching of
your,
Vedic teachings, all of that.
your association, but the unlocking of the different separates and accessing of the different points. So even if you want to go looking at it as like the chakra points that you're opening, I made the reference of our brains is like a computer. If you true occultist, because occultism is a descendant or a grandchild of Kabbalah, you know,
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
all study basic Kabbalistical principles and they take their evolution or their understanding of it and created occultism. So if you consider yourself an occultist, consider yourself a Kabbalist. Now, where I think a lot of the fear about Kabbalah comes in, especially within the West Indian diaspora, is that we confuse Kabbalah with Solomonic magic because a lot of, we're not going to go into the spirits and entities that we associate with Kabbalah are really Solomonic spirits, you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we've become too interchangeable between the
Hmm.
two and saying that they're synonymous practices, and they're not.
So I noticed something. You know,
It's
with
like
the
having
old
a cousin.
heads, and with the old heads in our community, at least when I first came into it, I appreciate the old heads in my school because they didn't use that term. They didn't use Kabbalah. They used mysticism. Because when you use the term mysticism and you talk about that encompasses all elements of mysticism. That could be the Kabbalah, that could be Gnosticism, that could be Solomonic magic, that may be roads of Egypt, Kemetic magic. You understand? Could come into that, and so that's how it was presented to me in the beginning, and I actually resonated very heavily with that. But then in my studies, when I started to realize that you brought up the discipline of Kabbalah, I can tell you, since coming into the rotation of being a Kabbalistic practitioner, my lifestyle has changed. There is definitely a shift that happens where I can say, to the point of some of my desires, fleshly desires, plain talk, bad manners, a lot of my fleshly desires and things that I would do at a certain level has definitely decreased. A lot of I've become more isolated in the sense of I spend a lot of time in meditative states. I don't spend a lot of time around a lot of people because you are very sensible and aware to certain things. Um, I can also say that my connectivity to the source has increased. You understand? And so downloads, the type of downloads, how the downloads come, the interactions with the vibrations and the different levels of forces comes at a certain level. As Shanique said, as Rain said, it comes with a lifestyle. And not everybody can handle that at one time, as a Kabbalistic practitioner. So you got to take it in doses. You can't take it all one time. It's definitely something that you ease into bit by bit, like becoming a damn vegan. You don't take the leap into it all just so. Go ahead, Ray.
What I wanted to say back to the original purpose of having this show is do not be afraid of pursuing knowledge. You just
Mm-mm.
have to know your limitations because that is what Kabbalah is. It is many of millennia of research, study, pontification, applications of what this existence, the soul, the source of all source is. You're not going to grasp it in one lifetime. I literally had this conversation earlier. Like, this is the purpose of why we keep coming back, especially who are enlightened beings. We're trying to understand the whole source of source. I was like, I use the word source versus the word God because to me, God seems so finite. There are so many gods that God has the definition of what God is no longer holds the weight of the word God because we use it so
Mhm.
lackadaisically, for lack of a better word. But when I think
Mhm.
about source, that one point of energy, because all of
All in
this,
all.
the fleshy body, all of that, it still boils down to energy. There's something so massive that exists that it can create everything
Everything.
that we see around us. And Kabbalah is trying to explain and help us understand that this thing that seems so grand, it's you. You are the universe.
Fire.
The
You
universe
are.
is you. You're trying to
Yes.
understand something so vast and so grand, and there's so much that's going to go into it. Your mind, I was like, I made the analogy. Your mind is a computer. You only have but so much bandwidth to take in certain reality shifters, things that are
Uh-huh.
going
Uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
completely go against the programming. Because we live in a matrix, so we came in with a certain programming. What Kabbalah does is slowly deprogram you from from that. And because your mind could only handle but so much of this reality shift, you could only take it in like lifetime doses. I was like, even if you think about the people who study this, like monks and shamans and all this kind of stuff, that's all they do. They're not trying to work a job, they're not trying to live life. They dedicate their whole entire being to trying to understand such a vast concept. We don't even have the proper diet to truly be considered Kabbalistical practitioners. We're not feeding our body right electrolytes, all these different things to truly activate ourselves to that understanding. But Kabbalah exists even in the watered down dispensation that we experience it to be that, as I keep saying, the blueprint to how to unlock these points of understanding. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're not. I wanted to hone it in for a second. Because in parts I agree, and there's in parts where it's not that I disagree. I want I want to like add to. I agree with the factor of um no lifetime, no one person will ever be able to retain everything. There are white people, as she said, devote their time and even have to take sojourns. A lot of the writers that start their writings very young, and they are traveling and building before these writings are a lot of times even published. A lot of the texts that we read, and so you don't get it just like that. But what I will say is we have to acknowledge and appreciate the work that it was done before us, because now we have the blueprint that we can pick up and say, yo, okay, let me actually apply this thing and live this thing. That I do believe that if you do take the time and you do apply it, it's not a matter of like to be a bona fide, to be a Kabbalistic practitioner, you have to sacrifice life. I don't want to present that message to the world because I don't think that is so. Because even if we just look right now and at your neighbors right there in New York, Crown Heights and Williamsburg. Well, Crown Heights, those people are living life. They travel to take vacation. They have this. They have phones. But their life is surrounded around Jewish teachings and principles of Kabbalah. The Orthodox Jews. That I'm speaking about. And so we don't. I don't want to paint this idea that you have to live like the 17th and 16th century or like the monks that do sacrifice and live in the temple to be a practitioner, but you do have to have some level of discipline. You do need to carve out time for cleansing, consecration, meditation, and in fact, as Rain said, fasting, because fasting is important. Cleansing your bodies and cutting off distractions and taking stuff out of self to connect with the source to gain wisdom is important. But also, as a Kabbalist, gaining wisdom is also a lifestyle from every place that you go to, and being receptive to the true divine wisdom that aligns to wisdom of the source, not wisdom that is restrictive, not wisdom that is um, segregated people, or wisdom that that creates division, or wisdom that quote unquote wisdom that people have not founded in facts, supported facts or truths, and so when you talk about developing wisdom, which is a key element of Kabbalah, developing wisdom, one, applying yourself and researching. That is history, that is math, that is science, that is spirit, that is culture. You understand? That's why a lot of these writers had to go other places. Christ himself had to go other places as well to develop oneself. And these skills of meditation, these skills of activation, learning the power of sound, you learning the power of the mind and using it, making sure the voice, the sound, the mind, the spirit, the soul, the heart are all in alignment. To, in fact, again, talking about the alchemy. And so when we deal with the tree of life now, which is that blueprint, the blueprint of self or Jacob's ladder, you understand, where we talk about reaching Katir or Omuluwabi, you understand, or Sar in the Kemetic science, that higher self, the perfect balanced being of masculine and feminine energy. Those pathways are the different experiences in life that builds character, the different experiences that you must go through that teaches wisdom, because it's not just learning facts and history and how to make something go and I put gas in the car and it goes. But then you have to go through the process of knowing how to take care of that vehicle. And what is it like when that vehicle breaks down, and what it requires to pick that vehicle up and keep that vehicle running in a successful manner, you know, and the parts that it takes to get there, and realizing that there has to be a level of balance. And that's a level of the thing that I love about Kabbalah is that it teaches about balance of self, masculine and feminine energy. A lot of time, a lot of colonial or religious teachings are very misogynistic or masculine heavy, where they don't implement the importance of balance. You understand? And so when we get into the teachings of Kabbalah, it teaches about as above, so below. You understand? Left and right. There has to be a level of equal balance, cosmically, mentally, carnally, and spiritually. There has to be balance, because that is how the world was formed and created. And that's how the world will forever thrive. And even when we look at imbalances in self, whether that's health, if that's finances, whether we look at the imbalances in the world, that is due to I mean the catastrophic things that happens in the world, that is due to some form of imbalance. You know what I mean? And so um some of those ways. Go ahead, Rain.
What I wanted to say that the basic starting point for Kabbalah is to want to have that pursuit of gaining information. I say
Hmm.
for all people, if you have that like fire that I want to learn more, I want to understand more, it would start coming to you. Like recently, I've been bombarded by information about a particular energy and a particular force. And I'm like, why is this showing up on my feed all of a sudden? But that's the thing when you start the quest, when you begin to say to the universe, or, because I don't know, this particular principle has really been sticking out to me. The all is mind and the universe is mental. There's no separation, and that's when we talk about God and man make manifest, or we're co creating with God. We're using our mental faculties. And that's the great thing about Kabbalah and understanding these different points that you have access to open and unlock certain doors with the information that you're garnering. Don't just garner information, because there's such a plethora and wealth of knowledge to begin to pull from, right? It's now, how do you take that and make it malleable to you? Because we can break down Kabbalah to the most finite definition, and it's
Yes.
still going to be elusive because it's an understanding of consciousness. And do we even understand what consciousness is?
Mm,
So we're
let's go
in
there.
this pursuit to have an understanding on both ends of the spectrum. And Kabbalah is saying, well, okay, if you do the meditation, if you take the time to study, if you do the fast, if you do all these different things, and then you do the magic, you invoke the spirits, all these types of things, it would better help you come to that sense of oneness. Now,
Yes.
I think, because we want to demystify Kabbalah, but the thing about it is
I
when
want to
it's
get
such
into
an, it's not an, I don't want to say it's an abstract
that.
concept, is a large concept to try to minimize in a simple term. So we're trying to say we're trying to compact the universe into this small little box, and when you try to explain to somebody that, hey, Kabbalah is all these points of study, you know, to bring you back to this one point, it's kind of hard for your mind to like
So
wrap
this is how
around.
this is what I find to be effective, because we can definitely do that in 1 hour, hour and a half. We definitely can give that all to you because, like we explained to you all, it's a lifestyle. So I did create a way that I felt would be, you know, a informative tip to encourage you to research until you are aligned into spaces and environments where you're able to experience more. Because I will say this, Kabbalah and going into the quest of learning the depths is not for everybody. Do I personally feel a lot of people should invest time to learning the more of self and God? I do. But I do also live in the reality of knowing that certain information some people will not get, even as Kabbalistic practitioners. Not everyone is on the same ladder. And so not everyone receives the same level of information. Now you can share and exchange, but even in that, you have to do it with wisdom and spirit in mind, with the consciousness to know what to share and exchange and what spaces and with who. And so, being that this is a public platform and we're speaking to the masses, you don't know who's listening, but I wanted to present something that I do believe information that everyone should have to help in the demystifying of what Kabbalah is. And so, number one, especially in our community, and even within a lot of Jewish teachings and Christian teachings, if you're not within Kabbalistic sectors, a lot of mystic teachings are demonized, or most people are taught that you should not study mysticism or understand what mysticism is because it is too high. Because you start to tap into trying to understand God. And a lot of people grew up saying we shouldn't question God or we shouldn't try to understand the mysteries of God, but I I'm a believer that it's okay to know the mysteries of God because we were created in a way and we were privy to divine beings that God sent here, the angels, the Orisha, the intelligent forces that help mankind to progress, came with the intentions and the desire for us to know and understand the mysteries of God the best way that we can. So I'll go ahead, Rain. Oh, Rain is coming back. And so I want to list the different types of spirits that are the different categories of spirits within Kabbalah. And we're going to do a video later that covers more insight to these categories of energies. Okay, but tonight I'll list them because a lot of people are familiar with only two, generally for the most part. People are familiar with angels and people are familiar with quote unquote, as we would say, demons or, you know, um, but I wanted to cover the proper terminologies to use because when you know better, you do better. And a lot of us were misformed and miseducated in our upbringings out of fear, out of Raina's back. Let me add her back. a lot of us were miseducated out of fear, and I don't want us to live in fear. I don't believe God places because the Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And a sound mind comes with clarity and understanding. Go ahead, Rain.
One thing I want to say though with Kabbalah, it's definitely not for everyone because you have to know what your computer can
Mm-hmm.
hold. If you
Mm-hmm.
know you only got 12 gigabytes of memory, don't try to download 1 TB of information because
Mm-mm.
it's going to overload your system. Because what Kabbalah does, as I said, it constantly deprograms you from this pre existent code that you have written within your mindset. So I do understand where the elders come from, why they had instilled fear, because one, they didn't have the understanding of themselves. A lot of them couldn't read. A lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
was only limited to a certain level of understanding,
And
you know,
exposure.
and a lot of things that we don't understand, we demonize, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the fear comes in. But there should be a level of reverence and respect because you're going to see things that you've never saw before. You're going to understand things that you never understood before. Are you, as I tell anybody, before you enter any type of spiritual journey, are you at a place where you can handle that shift?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
you're gaining a lot of new insights to yourself, and sometimes that can be the scariest part of it all, so I want us to be mindful, you know when we're saying to people like, hey, don't go diving into esoteric principles now, and that that's are far above your pay grade and your head. Like, I'm a person that I kind of have to feel to hear, and I'm trying to avoid that for most people. Take your time. There's a reason why certain information, and even just reading certain information, like, it unlocks certain things within your mind,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know and now
Mm-hmm.
you're faced with a whole new level of reality. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't, as I said before,
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself a Kabbalah practitioner, but somebody that has a pursuit and a thirst and a drive for knowledge and understanding. Small doses.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
Absolutely.
that's the that's
And
the
so that's
message.
why we wanted this because one to demystify, one to give clarity, and to give the small doses. Because I rather help my community with establishing a foundation of where to start successfully and wisely versus going into the pool of the unknown and getting tripped up because those are true scenarios too. Okay. And so here I was about to say like I do at the church. Here begin it. No, here we start. And so as I stated, the different categories of forces or energies that will manifest within the practice of Kabbalah. Okay, this can be visible and invisible, physical and unphysical. Okay, you have infernal forces. Okay, and the other word here I actually cannot pronounce. I'm not going to try to butcher it on live. I'll be quite embarrassed, so I'm not going to do that. But I will also list these in the comments later. Then you have terrestrial. Oh, I'm still going to read what they mean. Okay, so Jewish Kabbalah, it says infernal forces are represented by the. I'm going to try it. Quilith, Quilithfoth. Yeah, Quilithfoth. The shadow side of the Sephiroth. The Qliphoth embodies imbalance, corruption, or excess of divine energies. They are not inherently evil, but represent forces that must be balanced and transcended. Okay. Um, it says in Christian understanding, they are interpreted as fallen angels, or entities of divine light. Practices often emphasizes protection and the use of divine names to counteract their influences or these influences. It says terrestrial forces. These forces relate to Malkut, or the kingdom, on the tree of life. Representing the physical world, Malkut is the plane where divine energy manifests fully into matter, emphasizing balance and stewardship of earthly life. This is also like ancestral energies and also elevated energies that could have been born on earth or elevated or divine energies that are connected to the element of earth. It says here in the Kemetic science, terrestrial forces align with the land and its deities, such as Geb, which means earth, or Nut, which is sky. Practitioners focus on maintaining Mayat, ensuring harmony between the spiritual and physical realms. Okay, then you have celestial forces. Celestial forces are represented by the highest Sifrit, particularly Keter, or crown chakra, or Koma, which is wisdom, or Bana, which is understanding. These forces govern divine wisdom, creation, and cosmic order. In Islamic mysticism known as Sufism, celestial forces are perceived through divine eman- emanation, and their influences is accessed via contemplation of Allah's name and attributes. Then you have Fae, or elemental or nature spirits. Elemental beings are less emphasized, but can be linked to elemental realms, earth, water, air, and fire within Malkut. They are intermediaries between physical and spiritual forces. Okay? It says here in the Caribbean Kabbalah, Fae are similar Fae or similar beings are often recognized as spiritual spirits of nature. These energies are respected and invoked in rituals for fertility, growth, or protection. In Kemetic Kabbalah, elemental spirits are tied to deities governing natural elements, such as Shu as air and Tefnut as moisture. And then you have angelic forces. It says angels are messengers of divine will, each aligned with specific sephirats for existence. For instance, Metatron corresponds with Keter, while Gabriel aligns with Yeshud. Practices include invoking angelic names for guidance or protection. Okay. Nature forces. Nature forces such as it says here, nature forces are seen as expressions of divine energy in Malkut. Rituals honor the sanctity of creation and the interconnectedness of all life. It says in Sufi Kabbalah, nature is seen as a reflection of divine beauty, Gamal, and majesty, Jalal. Practices often involves contemplation of natural phenomena to draw closer to God. It says Kemetic traditions. Nature forces are sacred and represented by deities like Hathor, love and fertility, and Beset, protection and joy. Rituals focuses on harmony with the environment. And so as you see here, as we spoke earlier, Kabbalah is about balance and the connectivity with the source and the elements and the energies around you to understand who you are as a being and the God within you, the God that created all things to be. And again, it's so many things you can't take it in all at once. But if you take one bit and one bit and one bit and take your time, you will see the interconnectedness because things just start to flow like living water. But in all things, there must be a balance. Rain, you with me, darling? Hmm.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. But I was saying, yes, in all things, there must be a balance, and so it's not anything to fear other than to fear God, other than to fear the source that created
You're
all. But in
breaking
all
up a little
things,
bit.
have risk. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Testing one, two. Testing one,
You're
two.
breaking up.
Let me see. Can you guys hear me? Testing.
Better now.
Okay. Okay, great. So as I was saying, it's not to fear, other than to fear the creator that created all things, but it's more to have a reference for the divine, a reference for the beauty of God, the reference, good night, Mumbo, good night, a reference for and a respect. Go ahead, Ray.
Breaking up.
Really? Can you guys hear me? You guys, can you let me know if
Breaking
I'm
up.
breaking up in the comments, please? Let me see. Beautiful people, can you hear me,
You're breaking
guys?
up.
Oh, let me check on my phone just now. Oh, Mama Star says she can hear me clear. Okay. Are you on Wi-Fi, Rain? Okay,
I'm
Mama said we could
sorry.
hear you. Mama said we could hear you. I could hear you clear. Okay. I said, are you on Wi-Fi, Rain? Maybe it's your connection. Are you on Wi-Fi?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying, it's not anything to fear. The practice of Kabbalah and the practice of mysticism, yes, it's to question and understand the beauty of God and the things that came to be, but it's not to manipulate or take advantage of the knowledge. And a lot of times, a lot of people get access to the knowledge and are gifted and are divine in their wisdom, but misuse it. One of my encouragements to you guys from this day, please don't take advantage. Don't take advantage of yourself. Don't take advantage of the spirit. Don't take advantage of the elements. Have a mutual respect and relationship. Because when you have a relationship with God and when you have a relationship with the divine, things will flow in your favor. And that is the honest to God truth. Things will flow in your favor. And when you don't know, and you truly, as the old folks would say, seek God's face, seek the face of the Spirit, and that's just simply meditation. That is simply being still and going within and setting yourself aside, and allowing that revelation, that download, and that wisdom to come now and give you what you need to go forward and to grow and to be a better version of yourself. That's what it's about, being a better version of yourself. Katir, Asar Muluwabi, this is about being a better, balanced, whole version of yourself, free of anger, free of malice, free of hate, free of the weight, you know, um, coming, knowing what it is like to be able to reach and go into that space and say, okay, I'm better than that. It's not about how many entities and how many divine forces we can call and work with, but in all, how am I going to be a better version of myself? How am I growing to be a wiser version of myself? How am I growing to be a more peaceable version of myself? How am I growing to be a more divine-like version of myself? You understand, truly living in balance. And that's what it's about, representing that energy, you know. Um, and everyone has a different place on the tree of life, you know. And not everybody will reach there. We all can strive to reach there, truly strive to reach there. And whatever shortcomings and dispositions we may have, we have to strive to get there, you know. Ray, were you able to hear? I don't know if I was breaking up when I was doing the forces, or were you able to hear? What were your thoughts? I know you're familiar. We've had some of those conversations, the private terrestrials, the fae, the infernals, you know
So I think
angelic.
um I did hear the breakdown and the declassification of the different realms and understanding of spirits.
Mhm.
I do think it's a necessary part to Kabbalah, but it's not what I would focus on as to what you were talking about with the purpose of Kabbalah. And, I think the topic of terrestrial, celestial, all these different variations of spirit, that should be a whole separate.
No, we're gonna
converse.
do a live step. I told them specifically I wanted them to understand because, like I said, that part you probably didn't hear. I was saying a lot of times people have a perception that Kabbalah is just this dark thing, or that it's only low vibrational energies. Now, the reason why I gave those classifications of spirits is so that people are aware of the fullness of the vibrations that exist within Kabbalah. Now, when we have to go into separate videos of that in itself. We also have to go into video regarding the components of the Sephirot, the tree of life, and getting into those elements of the Sephirot.
But to go back to the point that you were making, the purpose of Kabbalah, or what is Kabbalah in its essence, it's the key to teach us how to be master alchemists, because
Hmm.
that's what we're doing. We're understanding the basic principles of the universe and how it works and all that kind of stuff, so we can master and bend our own universe around us. So once you begin to remove yes, the spirit component of it is there, but and you focus more so on the science component of it, like meditation and breathing techniques and understanding how important playing certain vibrations and frequencies are,
Hmm.
the magic aspect and the spirit aspect of it kind of takes a back burner, you know. You can focus on the practical applications of taking this understanding and going into developing you. Now, would working with these particular spirits, energies, and guides help you along the way or can teach you along the way certain things? Yes, you
But
know.
wait a minute. I don't. But we have to separate the different. A force and a spirit is two different. Can a spirit be a part of a force? Yes. But a force is no different than a frequency and a vibration. And so, even when we get into the tree of life, and as even in the breakdowns, they made clear reference to the separate within the tree of life. Even, for example, as I'm looking at right now, the nature force, since it's right here on my screen, dealing with the energy of beauty and majesty. These that deals with self. If we're talking about understanding one's beauty of self, beauty in nature, but also beauty of self. And so it's not just dealing. Even here, it says the nature force is dealing with the element of
So when I
love,
use the word
fertility,
force,
and protection of joy.
when I use the word force, I don't mean to be like a specification of a spirit or whatever. I'm just
Okay,
using it as
okay,
colloquially as a term that is used to reference a specific type of energy, right?
okay, okay, okay.
So,
Hmm.
what I was saying that a lot of times we focus so much where the fear comes in with Kabbalah is that
Hmm.
the focus seems to be solely on the spirit aspect of Kabbalah. But Kabbalah is so much greater than
That's
just
it.
the
Hmm.
entertainment of spirit. So that's the point that
That's
I
it.
was trying to make.
That's it.
So
That's it.
we can focus our energy on understanding the difference between the spirits and all this kind of stuff and different types of spirits and whatever, but at the end of the day, if we don't understand the basic principles of mastering self, understanding the spirits means nothing, right?
Hmm.
Because one
Hmm.
can't exist without the other. Now what gets the most attention, what causes the fear, whether it be of dark spirits or light spirits or whatever spirits, is that we don't trust what we can't see. We're already trying to understand this concept of God, and now you're trying to also put in all these other types of energies, beings, and entities. So people fear what their mind cannot grasp or know. So what I would tell somebody when you're coming into Kabbalah, don't focus too much on the spirits. Yes, you need to understand the spirits that be, but focus on the mastery of self and the different techniques that Kabbalah teaches you to master self, right? And the different assets for it.
I
Because it's
think
like,
we still. I think it's still getting lost in translation, and I don't want to lose the audience because me breaking down the separation of force is still important to understanding self, and I still am going to big that up. That is important because again, as it started with Inferno, dealing with anger, dealing with all of these things, confusion. That if you are a person that is operating in a spirit or a vibration of anger, confusion, and low vibrational energy, that is an internal force. We don't have to go down naming no spirit attached to that. I never named any spirits. There's never named or identified any necessary spirits, but dealing with the actual force because that is a part of self. We have vibration and force within us. And
I'm
so,
not dis
again,
I'm not
yeah,
disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm saying where the
okay,
aspect of fear comes in is that
okay,
people don't understand that concept. That when you
okay.
mention a spirit, you're actually talking about an energy. So, like as you said, you're dealing with anger, all this kind of stuff. Now, whereas they understand that that's infernal energy or lowest vibration of energy,
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
causes the fear is usually that spirit or that energy usually has a name attached to it and is now an entity. So now, if you
Hmm.
remove that spiritual component of it and you just go
I'm
back
there
to
with you.
what you see, to the concept of that, no, infernal energy is just the lowest form of energy, and we
Hmm.
just happen to name and identify it,
I'm
then
there
that
with you.
removes some of that fear. So that's what I
Hmm.
was saying.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. And that's why I didn't want to get it lost in translation. We're on the same page. And she's right. A lot of times people, and I think that's what a lot of practice too, not just Kabbalah, but overall, but staying within Kabbalah, a lot of times people have that fear because of the names associated to certain elements. And I think what Rain said is key. I hope you guys catch that. Really get to the vibration and the energy of where you are in that tree of life and how it's manifesting in your life. And when you can master understanding that and working through certain spaces, those are the pathways, how you work through this Sifrit to the next Sifrit. You're going to have to experience these different things and go through these different things from this one to the next one to bridge there. And so, sticking to that, you know, and working on the minute things because you can get the tree of life in a very simplified form. You got to get all of what the Hebrew writing and all of that. They have very simplified forms that will tell you, key words to help you understand the pathways of growth and of evolution and growing and healing in certain areas of self so that you can get to that space of being a balanced person. And some stuff like for example, having a conversation with my stepmom the other day, you know, um, and she in her up in age and me loving her so much, she's very strong. And it was interesting hearing how there's certain things that she had gone through in her teenage years before children and all of that that at 50 something she's still holding on to and angry about and boldly saying she's not letting it go. She's not letting it go. She's not letting it go. But in hindsight of that, I'm also experiencing my same stepmom now living as a cancer patient. And me in my mind, like, oh my God, you know, and I could be wrong, but looking at it like, man, you could be healed. You could actually expedite some of your healing too, physical healing, if you also let go some of your emotional and mental healing, because we could stay stuck in certain areas of our life, in certain areas of our path, because we are choosing not to address certain things. And if you are truly a spiritual being and truly a Kabbalist that is trying to be, because not everybody's trying to be, but if you desire to be in that higher realm of the tree of life, there's certain parts of self that we got to deal with. And that's something I also realized in my journey of Kabbalah that I appreciate. Like it brings up things, certain things will be brought up to the surface. Certain parts of self will be brought up. Shadow self will be brought up that has to be dealt with. Some people will play in that energy and are okay with living in that shadow self and existing in that lower self, lower version of shadow self. And that's okay for them. But from some like me and others that want to be in that balanced state and be in a higher vibration, you got to do the work. And it's ugly sometimes, it's uncomfortable sometimes, but you got to do it. And when you know better, again, when you come into the knowledge of knowing better, you have to do better, and you're going to feel that. You're going to go through the experience and be held accountable to go through that. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that, Ray?
So for me, I always think about your chakras, right? And the basic entry point is the root chakra, which deals with fear, stability, all that type of things.
Mm-hmm.
Primitive, primordial human emotions. Now, it's the same thing with the tree of life as you try to ascend and go through these different portals, and you realize that it's all the same. We're trying to get to this highest level of consciousness. If you're not able to get past the basic of feeling secure within self, all that other pursuit of wanting to understand more is never going to happen. And I've
Mm-mm.
gotten to a stage to realize that it's not supposed to happen for everyone. We're not all supposed to walk this enlightened path. So, yes, I understand the necessity for those of us who are chosen to be on this journey to dedicate ourselves to understanding how to grow and evolve. But understand that it's going to take time and it's going to take patience. We have to learn to be patient with ourselves, especially when we're doing shadow work. You know, I've been going through a process within myself this year of facing certain shadows because a lot of times we may be aware of certain things. We may think we have gone past certain things. We may think we have evolved and have a mastery of certain things. But until we're put back into a particular type of situation, we never know if we've truly mastered that level of understanding and evolution. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the constant thing with Kabbalah. Kabbalah is going to always put you in the track to have to go through this process of elevation and reflection because that's key to Kabbalah. All the science, all the magic, all the mysticism to the side, it always puts you back to the place of understanding that you must reflect within the self,
Yes, I should. I
you
should.
know.
I should. Mm-hmm. Good night. Thank you guys for viewing tonight. Thank you guys. I can tell everybody was listening. We didn't get a lot of comments tonight, but the views are up, so I know you guys are there. And I thank you guys for listening and viewing. Those of you that are on Instagram, those of you that are on Facebook, those of you that are on YouTube, thank you all. Share the live, comment later, share your thoughts when you go back and listen. We definitely benefit from you guys' perspective and your feedback. We are grateful for it. I pray that it's been beneficial. I know it's not a common topic, and there is a lot of YouTube videos out there, but again, if you're not at a certain level of understanding and practice, you may not be able to dissect some of the information, how it's put out there. So I do pray that tonight was beneficial. You know, and this hour and some change video, we shared a good bit of information and a good perspective, good bit of perspective. That's why I love my sister because you guys don't know, even outside of this, we have our iron sharpening sessions. And we do this and we pick each other up and we challenge each other and teach each other too. And so we want to, create a space where we are able to do that with you all. And I know I enjoyed tonight. I hope, Rain, you enjoyed tonight too. It was good. Go ahead. Go ahead, girl. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly say don't feel like Kabbalah is a big concept that can't, like, oh, it's too late. I haven't begun this journey. I'm never going to get it. I woke up one day 4 years ago and was like, okay, I'm going to dive into this. We never really got into like how the
Oh,
journey
we can.
started.
We can. We can give them that. I'm willing if we want to.
So for me, I've always been a seeker of knowledge.
Hmm.
I've always felt like one, I didn't come from this planet, like I'm not from here. And that for me is what started my journey into Kabbalah was a deep knowing that I don't think I really fit into this mold. There has to be something more. So when I started like thinking, and this is how my brain is, and this is how my downloads is, and my connection with the universe. Once I start thinking, hey, why does this happen? YouTube? The answer be right there. Like seriously, I'd be like, I am not remotely even searching this, and I clearly remember the first book that I came across, and you know, you could go look it up, was the Kabbalion. And
Mhm.
that was my introduction into this world of thinking. And it's a book I still go back to and re-listen to very often because even me be like, what the fuck is they talking about? Like, but the more you read it, the more you dissect it, the more you process the information, the more it begins to make
Yes. It
sense
starts to
to
make
you.
sense. Yes.
And
Yes.
this is
Yes.
somebody that literally picked this up 4 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I think, don't be afraid that you won't be able to grasp the concepts, or this seems too large and too vast for me. Start with something basic like the universal laws, you know, something that your mind could grasp. And then you'll see, and that's the great thing about living in the age of Aquarius, living in the age of technology. There's like once you look up one thing, it's gonna suggest you a next. And you just keep going. And then
This
you're
is the
gonna
books
know
he's talking about, y'all.
then, next thing you know, you're gonna be walking into Barnes and Nobles like, oh, where's your spiritual and religious section? You're gonna have
Y'all see
books
how
that
things.
and you're gonna have books that you're gonna be like, I'm gonna read this. And you're gonna just start diving. And once you open this, and this begins to take in the source information because the tree is taking in information from the source downwards, right? And it's not grab,
Yes.
right? All the downloads are going to start coming to you about what you're supposed to do next. And I always say, I'm very grateful for the school that I magically rolled into, right? I rolled into a school where this is what they do. So pray for the right teachers to come into your life when you begin your journey of
Hmm.
Kabbalistical studies. Because you can have all the information and you won't know how to sift through it if you don't have the right teacher. So don't
Facts.
be in, don't be intimidated. Understand it's not something that you're going to have to just wake up and understand tomorrow, because no, you may
It didn't
have to
happen
go
like that.
back to the same principle or the same school of thought multiple times before your brain is like, oh,
Yes.
this is
Yes.
what they was trying to tell me.
Yes.
you know
Yes.
have Find like-minded people, so when you don't understand it, look, my encyclopedia just logged in. Hi, William. Like literally, that's my walking encyclopedia. Surround yourself with people that if you do have a question, you can be like, hey, what does X by Y Z? And even if they don't know, surround yourself with people who be like, wait, let me get a second and let's go figure this out together. Don't be afraid to, if you want to become a Kabbalistic practitioner or even just somebody who applies Kabbalistical principles in their daily life, don't be afraid to be like, okay, then my circle needs to change. Because you're going to start having different types of conversations. You're going to have a different pursuit for different things within your life. And I'm telling you, Kabbalah is a lifestyle. So don't
Hmm.
be surprised when your life starts to change.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. I agree. So with me, my interest in Kabbalah started when I was in high school, a little bit earlier, but I just started researching stuff until high school, watching Charmed and certain things I was seeing in Charmed. I started to have questions, certain tools they were using, and then certain terminologies I was hearing, and then dreams I started having. Seriously. And so in high school, I started researching. But fast forward to um, me moving to Georgia, like Rain, I ended up in a school where they happened to practice that predominantly. And so within my first month of being in the space, I was in a banquet. And by the time I was at my second banquet, I was put to work. And so, long story short, going through my rites of passages, uh, I was given in certain things, and also certain things were confirmed. And they took it further with my practice because certain things were given to me that I had to study and get a firmer understanding with and build with for myself, um, to help me along my journey. And so it has continued to help me, and it's still helping me, and it forever will help me because it's never a dying thing. And so it's been a beautiful walk. And like I said, it's nothing to fear because coming in, you see certain things. Um, it's one thing to hear about it, and it's another thing to see it in person. And you still have that old conservative mindset because of what you were indoctrinated with. And so, because it's like you were told this one thing, but then you experience another thing, and then and in that experience, you feel a positive vibration from it. For me, I had no choice but to look further. And in my looking further, and in my prayer, meditation, and communing with the source, I got answers and I got clarity and a better understanding. And then things to provide help to validate that understanding. So here I am today. And that's why I'm very adamant about sharing with you guys so that, for those of you that are interested and have been on your journey or are beginning your journey, that you go in with some clarity and a little bit of understanding so that you can have a neutral or more positive perspective of Kabbalah versus a looming dark understanding or low perception of Kabbalah, or mysticism as a whole. Um, and as Rain said, I also recommend starting with The Kabbalion. It's a really great book. I didn't start with The Kabbalion. I started with some other books, but The Kabbalion, and for people that are Christian or come from a Christian background, I also recommend a book I preach about often called The Mystical Life of Jesus. It's a really awesome book, and when you dive into it, you'll understand why I recommend that book. But The Kabbalion is a great book that teaches universal laws that never changes. No matter where you go, no matter what you practice, these laws are consistent. And so it's one that everyone should know, no matter what level. Not saying you're going to be a bona fide Kabbalist, or even if you just want to be a wiser person and a balanced spiritual being. I definitely think it is a book that, the Hermetic laws you should definitely get into. But as a whole, um, it's for for individuals that are seekers of knowledge, that want to be wiser and more aware and connected to the source. And that connectivity and your journey and your mobility in your journey will look different than everyone. And that's the beauty about it. No one's journey has ever looked the same and will be the same. But there are certain experiences that we have to face on that road to Katir. And so I pray that, this, like I said, this video has given you guys some great insight. And again, I thank you all for viewing and sharing with us and being here with us. And I thank you all for the love. I pray love to you all, and light to you all, and enlightenment to you all, encouragement to grow in your journeys. I pray that the divine force of love, peace, and protection surround all of us as we grow in our journeys, no matter where we are, and continue to help us to strive to be the best version of ourselves. That is my prayer for you all tonight. I pray that you rest well. And again, thank you all for viewing. Rain, you know how it is and where the love is, full stop, and I love you all.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I fucking love
Ice
you.
to the fire. I